until 1933, we always built spaces where life could go on, and we really celebrated the spaces. And we had actually two types of spaces. We had the street, which was made by the linear movement of the feet, and we have the square, which is what the eye can see. And both of them were grounded in the human body and the fact that we are a walking animal. And we have, in all the cities, we have these older parts which we love, which are made of streets and squares and made for people, by people. In 93, they started to redefine that now, instead of focusing on spaces where life could go on, they would focus rationally on the buildings, because that was where the money was going to be spent. And so, to make it rational, you only worried about the buildings. And whatever was not built was leftover space. And also, all knowledge of human scale was lost in that process. In Denmark, it was found out that for the same price as building a 15 stories high-rise, you could build concrete elements, row houses and low stuff, which were much better human scale. It was found very quickly that people would much rather like a row house with a garden in a small scale, low-rise development than living in the high-rise. I call the high-rise many times hotel housing because it's a good place to sleep and it's a good place to look out of the windows. But it's not so good if you have to go with a dog or if you get old and have to get up and down and go for your walk as the doctor tells you. There's a number of things which makes the lower stuff more popular. Of course, in various times of life, you may have different wishes. I would always take the departure point to make things as universal as possible so that having a child is not a catastrophe. It can have a good life here. And being old or breaking your leg is not a catastrophe. You can have a good life here. I think that it's a quality that you could stay for a period of your life or most of your life in the same neighborhood if it's a good neighborhood. You always could do that in the old days, and many of the old districts work like that today. People hate to move, and they can stay there in comfort, even if they get old. So, climate challenge is one of the big ones. For many years, we've been so dependent on cars that we forgot to use our own muscles. And the doctors are now screaming that we have to do something about that urgently because now people die earlier and earlier. On the other hand, you can have 7 more years and they will be years of good quality and you will not have to go to the doctor. It will be much more cheap. And that's why they say walk and bike as much as possible, which again is good for the climate. Quality of what is outside is just as important for your quality of living than what is in the flat. I have a quote from an Icelandic saga 800 years ago, "Man is man's greatest joy," which I think is still the case, and we can spend hours sitting just watching the other ones and see what dresses the girls have now and what is happening always.